Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. So we spent this morning talking about so many stories. My topic was transforming the subtle body of mind intelligence for its ego. We talked a lot about the mind, that by the power of the mind we can hang around for a long time. And by the power of the mind we can overcome the level of pain and the importance of intense absorption, that any challenge can become joy and bliss if we are intensely absorbed. You know? Yes. Okay, and we very briefly touched upon transforming the intelligence, what that means, seeing Krishna behind everything as the origin of everything and so on, and false ego. Only, very quickly, that we have to give up these designations. You know, I'm mother, I'm father, I'm a Sankirtan devotee, I'm a pujari, I'm this and that, I'm the Bhakta leader in Kiev, and so many things. So, I'm servant. You know? It's actually very logical. If we really deeply identify with being servant, so much easier to move on to another service situation, you know? But if we identify with anything else, that will keep us here, you know? Yes. So, let me begin by remembering this nice analogy Prabhupada gives in the Bhagavatam, which I very often quote, that life in the material world is a nonsensical stage performance. I really like that one. Nonsensical stage performance. In Ukraine, we were always translating it as bezumny cirque, crazy circus. And this is really what it is. You know, every life we can imagine on the stage, yes, one lifetime, German woman, oh, I have so many important things to do, so busy, running, you're taking it really in, oh, it's so important. And then death comes, show is over, curtain closes. Yeah. And then next life, maybe next life in your man's body, and again, running, oh, everything is so important, I'm so busy, and then again, death comes, curtain is closing, show is over, like that it goes lifetime after lifetime. And of course it's the false ego that entangles us in this nonsensical stage performance. But yeah, it's a good thing to remember every now and again that all these things which are now so important to us, you know, whether we are married or not, and family and friends and work and, you know, paying off my mortgage of the house and this and that, even war in Ukraine. At the moment of death, it has no significance. Nothing. Good to remember this. You know, especially horrible, you know, situations like in Ukraine, and I'm of course also heartbroken about this. I look every day in the news and hope that this finally finishes. But yeah, it's good to make these 2 steps back and remember, at the moment of death, who cares about the war? It has no significance, because on this absolute platform of my relationship with Krishna, that is eternal relationship, eternal reality. It has no importance, you know? You ladies understand what I'm saying? Yes? I hope I'm not giving you any pain by saying this, but I am also pained. When the war started, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I was completely, I was very I'm telling myself this every now and again, that on the absolute platform, it has no significance. It's all part of this crazy circus. Yes, that's what it is. Because there's kind of two realities. There's this reality of the nonsensical stage performance, which we all take as reality, but it's very flickering, temporary. It's like a kashmar, a nightmare, you know? But then there is eternal reality, which is my relationship with Krishna. That's the only thing we are allowed to keep at that moment of death. My relationship with Krishna. Everything else, finished. Show is over. Yeah. It's quite interesting to understand this, you know. And we can say the process of Krishna consciousness is meant to transform our perception of reality. What is reality? In the beginning, we think the crazy circus here is reality. You know? But then as we deepen our relationship with Krishna, and as we become purified, then we realize eternal reality is, thank God, it's my relationship with Krishna. And nothing can take that away. You know? Even death, chemotherapy, cancer, war, nothing can take that reality away because it's eternal. You know? Yes. So it's good to remember this. This will give us some strength that we take shelter in that reality. You know? Because there is a verse in the Bhagavatam where it says, the only wealth of a person who is just about to leave this world is his religion, his connection with God. That's our only wealth. Yeah. So an intelligent person invests into that wealth. My relationship with Krishna, because that's the eternal wealth. All other things will be taken away. Krishna pulls them away from us. And somebody told me this story. I think it was even a non-devotee. You know, he was just lying on his deathbed, all the relatives and friends surrounding him crying, and he couldn't talk anymore. You know, in the very last phase, you don't have the strength to speak, because to speak requires actually quite some muscle strength even. So usually that strength is gone. So he simply wanted a piece of paper, and he wrote a last message, and he said, it's all an illusion. You know, that's what he wanted to get across to his relatives and friends. It's all an illusion. So at the moment of death, we get some little glimpse of this, you know? Then we realize, wow, and I even experienced that on my first experience with cancer, that I realized all my big achievements and all the collection I've done, and who knows me and who doesn't know me, it doesn't matter anymore when you're a little closer to death. Who cares? Who cares? No importance. Really, that was quite a strong realization. It changed completely my hospital life after I realized that. You know, because in our young stage, young age-wise and Krishna conscious-wise, we may be ambitious and we want to do all these things and we want to improve ISKCON and we want to change the world here and all this. But then I realized, no, it's got no importance, nothing. The only thing I'm allowed to keep is my relationship with Krishna. Yeah. Ooh, that was a big eye-opener. Yeah. Because as a preacher, you can also get into this whole trap of being ambitious and you want to be known and, that's why I keep away from social media. I don't have a maintained YouTube channel and all this, because I don't want to fall into this trap of thinking that everybody has to know what I'm saying and all these things. You know, because it can really feed the false ego. You know, people have told me how they get all irritated when they don't get enough views and no likes, and they think, oh, the others, they all have more views and more likes, and then you have to look at this person, oh, he's got so many followers. You know, so, my God, we are chanting every morning Shikshastika here. I don't want any followers, none more followers, but here we're running after the followers on YouTube and Facebook and all this, you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, that ambitiousness for the ego is very tricky, you know. So, but when death knocks a little bit on our door there, then we get these sobering realizations, you know. Yeah, so good to realize these two realities, yeah. And in the beginning, we are functioning more in this reality of the crazy circus, and then as we become purified, there is a transformation, and then we realize more and more eternal reality is my relationship with Krishna and what's happening in the spiritual world. And alright, we still have to function in the crazy circus somehow, and we play the game. You know, we just say, alright, let's go along with the whole crazy game here, and we do our duties and whatever, you know. Have to function, but we realize this is just a crazy game and I want to get out of here. And we are more established in eternal reality, and that gives us the strength to deal with the crazy circus, you know, because we say, thank God, this is just a crazy circus, and at the moment of death the curtain closes and the show is over, thank God, Kashmir finished. Yes. Yes. So now, let me see, I took a few notes here. Yeah, Krishna really pulled, it's like Krishna pulling the carpet underneath our feet, you know? Woof, mercilessly pulls it all away. All the things which we think are so important, our cozy, nice home, and this and that, it's all, you know, we have to let go, we have to leave it all behind. And in regards, you know, this morning we were saying we have to remember Krishna alone. But now we may ask, so what do we do if somehow through external situations we just don't have the chance to focus our mind on Krishna, right? That question is pretty obvious to ask, actually, right? Because we were talking so much, you know, to prepare and, you know, look at pictures and enter the DVT paintings and all these nice things we were talking this morning. So, but what to do if for some reason we don't get that opportunity and we, you know, maybe car accident or heart failure or whatever people are facing and leaving their bodies. So what to do? So there is a nice purport. That's 11.7.6. So it's not Prabhupada anymore, 11th canto. There it says, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, those great souls who have surrendered unto me are always equipped with transcendental knowledge and detachment from the material world. Sometimes, being busy in their devotional service, they may appear to forget me. However, a pure devotee who has achieved the platform of love for me will always be protected by such sincere devotion. Even if such a devotee should suddenly give up his life while neglecting to fix his mind intensely on me, such a devotee's loving feelings are so powerful that they offer him all protection. Even if there is a temporary moment of forgetfulness, such devotion will bring devotee to me, to my lotus feet, which are beyond the vision of ordinary materialistic persons. Yeah, so a very nice explanation, you know? In other words, it's all a question of relationship. Yeah. It's all a question of relationship. So very nicely, Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that a pure devotee, you know, has achieved the platform of love for Krishna, and that gives him always protection through his devotion he is having in his heart. So, and even if such a devotee should suddenly give up his life and not being able to focus his mind on Krishna, still, you know, Krishna is there. The devotee's loving feelings are so powerful that they afford him protection, meaning Krishna is a person. And if he sees his devotee who's been so sincerely serving and developing his relationship with him, and his heart is full of devotion, that has to be there. So then, of course, Krishna is appearing on the platform of his mind, as we were sharing yesterday with the Madhajis who remembered the Mahamantra, nothing else. You know? So obviously, when you have a stroke, you can't focus your mind on Krishna there. You know, you're going to have a stroke. You know, the brain is damaged. You know, but still, Krishna appears on the platform of the mind through the Mahamantra. You know, yes, and that gives the protection. You know. So yeah, nice explanation, but of course we should not take this easy and say, okay, so just see, Krishna will understand. You know, then I don't have to make such effort. He will be there. After all, I'm chanting and doing a bit of seva here. You know? But no, not like that. You know, we can't trick or cheat Krishna. You know? But in any case, it's nice to understand that it's not just like some yogic process of fixing the mind on him and so on. No, ultimately it's a question of devotion, a question of love. Yeah. And then in any loving relationship there is two personalities involved. You know, so if one person can't remember the beloved, then of course the beloved will do the needful. You know? Yeah, so good to know. So, understanding that it is all a question of relationship. Well, how do we develop our relationship with Krishna? My question to you, not you two, but let's see what the others are saying. What's the main and foremost way how to develop the relationship? With Krishna, yes. What's the main and foremost way?
Hearing about him and serving him.
Hearing and serving is a more powerful process.
Hearing and chanting.
That's what she said. There is a more powerful process. Or you said hearing and chanting? Chanting the holy name. That's the main and foremost process. Yes. Because Krishna and his holy name are non-different. Krishna extends himself into the material world by giving us his holy name. So when we chant, we actually associate with Krishna. Actually. We get the same benefit as meeting Krishna face to face. Yeah. But But of course, we have to also give him attention. Right? That's the problem. By the way, let me do a bit of advertisement. Every year around Christmas, I'm doing a Holy Name retreat in Ekachakra Dam. Who of you has been to Ekachakra? A few, but not everybody. So you have to come. Yes. This year it's 24th to 28th of December. It's already posted on the Holy Name Retreat website. People are already registering already now, but often those who are registering now, they will not come. Something else came up. So, but anyway, it's already open for registration. Very sweet and deep experience. If you want to escape the cold and grey time here in Germany and have a powerful experience, even if you just, last year we had one Mataji, where was she from? Czech Republic. She just came just for this 4 or 5 days. She flew all the way to India and the next day back. That was a little intense, you remember? Yeah, I've never had that before. Usually people stay an extra week or something. At least, A very sweet and deep experience. Ekachakra is Nityananda's birthplace. And I arrange everything. All you have to do is be in time in Mayapur and register on my website. I arrange the bus to Ekachakra, it takes about 3.5 hours. I arrange pretty good accommodation with attached bathroom, hot water, and nice prasad. No chili, salad. I've done it for 15 years, so I've got my routine there, Yes. Very nice experience. You get a whole folder with materials. I even have Russian translation there. Пожалуйста. Please come. Yes, usually I have a whole group from Mayapur, Russian-speaking devotees, and I always find some translator. So, very sweet experience. For 4 nights we stay there. First day I take the group on Purikrama, then 3 full days of retreat with morning or afternoon, then evening kirtans where we apply what we discussed during the day. So it's Holy Name retreat, it's not japa retreat. No 64 rounds and all of this, but just getting on a deeper levels of understanding what this chanting is all about. Yeah. And especially if you're willing to switch off your mobile phone for the whole time, I can promise you, you will enter a different reality. Eternal reality of me and my relationship with Krishna through the Holy Name. I'm not saying that out of false ego or something, but I had Prabhupada disciples there and they shared in the final sharing that it was life transforming for them. And sometimes people have shared, I realize I haven't even started chanting yet. What I've been doing was not chanting the Holy Name. I've been doing something else. These realizations people get, because the chanting is a whole deep science. Actually, in the False Ego book, there is a summary of a Holy Name retreat in there. Yeah. So, but of course, it doesn't replace taking part in the Holy Name retreat. Because these retreats, it's not meant to get some information. I think most of us have heard so many glories about the Holy Name, but it's about experiencing the Holy Name. And when you go in seclusion, when you leave everything behind, and you just pack a bag, and you have this mood, everything can wait. Nothing is more important than the Holy Name. You get a whole different focus, and you really enter a different reality. It's very powerful. Nityananda's birthplace, beautiful, secluded. And we build a little pandal on the rooftop behind the dome. Will be some Vajra Kutia there. It's very nice, very sweet. So please come. And charge fixed fees, believe it or not. I offer it on donation basis. The actual expense comes to about 3,500 rupees, which is peanuts. It's about 50 euros. The whole thing, the last accommodation per share. That's about the cost price. Yeah. Sometimes I even have to pay a bit from my own pocket just to cover the expenses. Yeah, because sometimes as Ukrainian devotees, they say to me, sorry, I can only give 500 rupees, that's all I have. And I say, literally, just come. Yeah, and sometimes, some more wealthy people, they give a bit more. Yeah, very sweet experience. So please come. It would be such an honor and pleasure for me to have you there. Yes, you can also come,
I think we are in Sankatan Marathon.
Oh.
It's the time.
Well, you start a week earlier and do a week longer or something when you get back, It will give you a big boost for the whole next week. But yeah, it's true. It's doing the Christmas marathon. What a shame. I'm missing out to serve you. Yeah, so the chanting. The chanting is the main thing how we re-establish this lost and forgotten relationship. So we can remember Krishna alone. The main tool is the chanting. But we have to chant in the proper way. And that means we chant really mindfully turning to Krishna and feelingly calling out to Him, addressing Him. Please, Krishna, I know you're there. Please accept me, filling our heart with longing for the relationship. This is how we are meant to chant. Longing for the relationship. And if we chant like that, then it's very clear, it's very simple and logical. If we try every day for 2.5 hours to chant longing for the relationship, something will happen in the relationship. Right? Yes, of course. It will become tangible reality. Yeah. But what do we usually do? We just with one hand in the bag, scrolling up and down here, quickly sending a text message. This is all useless, actually. Satchidananda Swami Maharaj calls this chanting where we don't turn to Krishna feelingly calling out to Him. He calls this empty medicine capsule. Any of you have heard that from him? Empty capsule? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, after my first time of cancer, that's when I turned more to the holy name. And I attended a retreat with Satchidananda Maharaj in Bangladesh. It was 2008 or something, 2009 maybe, pretty shortly after the whole journey for me there. And that's when I realized, wow, yeah, that's it. This has to be preached, empty capsule. Yes. So yeah, often our chanting is just empty capsule. From outside it looks like the real thing, but nothing inside, and therefore on the absolute platform of my relationship with Krishna, no effect. We may get all other different effects of some material opulences and being relieved from reaction to sinful activities and all that. But if we really want bhakti, then we don't care about these benefits. We want bhakti, and on that level, empty capsule has no effect, doesn't do anything. And it's very logical again. Even in our day-to-day relationships in a community or husband-wife or whatever, the first step to build a relationship is what? what's the very first step to build any personal relationship? What's that you suggest? Attention, yeah. We have to be mindful that there is a person there, right? That the wife says, hello, I am here. Maybe we can relate a little bit or something. Yes, or even in the ashram, life can be so impersonal. When you just walk past each other, hardly saying anything, or maybe Hare Krishna, that's it. We're not even mindful, hey, there's a person there that maybe needs some attention, some little encouragement, just some affectionate dealing, some little loving exchange, Yes. So the very first step is that we are mindful of the person's presence, that there is a person there in our life, So that's the same thing with Krishna, It's interesting to understand how we can actually completely cut Krishna out of the picture in our so-called Krishna consciousness. We can completely leave him out of the picture. It's happening. During the day we are busy running money and so many ambitions and projects and seva and this and that. But what are we doing for my relationship with Krishna? Well, that's when we change. That's the time when we build this relationship with Krishna. But if it's just empty capsule chanting, and the mind goes all in circles and we're thinking about so many things and multitasking, doing other things while we change, just getting these rounds out of the way, thank God I finished, so that kind of mood will not build the relationship with Krishna, obviously. Actually, little story from Ukraine. There was one Mataji in Dnipropetrovsk. She was just about to leave her body. And the devotees asked her, so you want to go back to Krishna? And she said, no. And the devotees were shocked. What, you don't want to go back to Krishna? And she gave this answer. She said, actually, I don't have a relationship with Krishna. And that's how it can go when we change empty capsules. Then at the moment of death we realize, my God, no relationship. I blew it again. I gave so many other things, so much importance, so much attention, so much time and energy. But the main thing, my relationship with Krishna, I blew it again. And here I am, no relationship with Krishna. I've accompanied somebody who had that experience. She stopped chanting for quite a few years. And then when she left, she said to me, everything is ready, all the devotees are there, arranging everything. But the worst thing is, I can't pray. Krishna's not there. There's a vacuum. There's emptiness. I can't pray. I can't even pray to Krishna. I can't address him. Nothing there. That's when we don't give enough attention to the chanting. Even though we may have been for 35 years in so-called Krishna consciousness. And then we realize I have not given enough attention to Krishna, to my relationship with Krishna. I blew it. And then there may be some lamentation. She also had quite a bit of lamentation. That I haven't given enough attention. I didn't take it seriously. And now, nothing there in the heart. I can't even pray. So the chanting is the main way how we prepare to leave. Because as we started off, remembering Krishna alone, that's what is required to go back to God, to remember Krishna alone. That relationship has to become the foremost, dearmost relationship in our life. And that's why we have to give attention to the chanting. And not just Mr. Sama, but really deeply turning to Krishna mindfully, calling out, longing for the relationship. That will build the relationship. And if we practice this, then of course if we all of a sudden facing a challenge, some terminal diagnosis or something, then of course we can turn to Krishna. We've already been practicing it for so long, to turn to Him feelingly and call out Him. So then this is just our second nature, and we will just take shelter there. But if we have not cultivated that, then we may just not be able to pray. And we take shelter of so many external things there. We cling on to them. So the chanting is the main and foremost way how to build the relationship. And then in regards to the false ego, because this morning the question came up, so how do we free ourselves from these designations? Right? Yeah, you were asking, I can't imagine not identifying myself with anything. So again, it's the chanting. So the second aspect, the second secret in chanting is, the first one is we turn to Krishna, we give Him attention, we are understanding there is a person here in our life. And we long for the relationship. And the second level thing is, we don't only long for the relationship, but we long to serve. That we chant, longing to serve. Krishna, all I want to do is serve, serve, serve. That's all I want to do. Please let me serve you and your devotees. Not that we ask for any particular service. We don't ask for more service, because sometimes people say, well, I'm already serving all day, how can I ask for more service? No, we don't ask for more service. We simply want to condense our service mood. Out of humility, a devotee feels, I haven't even started serving. I'm just playing around here. So when will the day come when I actually serve with full absorption, being ready to sacrifice my life, all my interests and personal conveniences and comforts, when I will be ready to sacrifice that to simply serve, So we want to thicken and condense. It's like making burfi, and we condense the milk out there, the water out, and we make it thicker. So that's what we do with our service mood. So again, very simple and logical, that if we chant longing to serve, surely the day will come where we realize, I am servant. Right, Mataji? Did she listen? Yes. So, if we chant longing to serve, and we try to do this every day for 2.5 hours, even if we don't manage to do this for the whole time, but even attempting, even trying, it will have an effect. And sooner or later we get the point, after longing to serve for hours and hours and days. So then we get the point, I'm actually servant. Yes, it's so simple actually. But to apply it requires practice, cultivation, hard work. Yes. So longing to serve, that establishes us in dasya. servant. So, and we may be wondering, well, how will we actually find out what is our eternal relationship with Krishna? You know, do we sometimes wonder about that? Yes? Yeah, we should. Yes, we should. So, very simple. We first have to be established in dasya by chanting, longing to serve. And then Krishna will reveal. Krishna, we will know from the heart one day. Krishna will reveal to us if there is anything more than dasya. Because dasya is the foundation to all other rasas. Right? There is dasya. Next one is sakhya, friendship. So, sakhya is based on dasya. You know? Plus sakhya. A good friend is also a servant. Plus the mood of friendship. Then vatsalya, parental. So, a parental relationship. There is servant, there is friendship, plus parental. Right? So, and then madhurya, conjugal, is dasya, plus sakhya, plus vatsalya, parental, plus conjugal. So dasya is there in all of them. Right? So, we first have to be established in dasya. Yes. And then Krishna will reveal. But as long as we are not established in dasya, as long as we identify with enjoyer, controller, proprietor, there's no question of understanding what is my eternal relationship with the Lord. No question. Krishna will not reveal anything. So the question is very simple. All we have to do is chant, longing to serve. That's the only business we have. And in due course of time, Krishna will give insights. We don't have to go to anybody who is whispering our eternal relationship into our ear and all this kind of nonsense. No need. We have to be established in dasya, and everything else comes from there. So it's good to know, good to know these things. Yes. Hare Krishna. So let us, before I continue, because this was just a few additional things, but I do want to start the next topic more now, the rest of the afternoon. I want to spend talking about Sterbehilfe, accompanying others, and also a little bit planning ourselves for our departure, what should we consider and plan. But before we start with that section, I want to just hear if there's any question or further clarification on these points of the two realities, nonsensical stage performance, and the chanting being the main and foremost way, how to establish this eternal wealth of my relationship with Krishna. That's our wealth at the moment of death. That's where we have to invest in, And better now, we should not think. That's why, when people say, oh, I'm young, I don't want to attend a seminar about death. No, we have to hear all these things now so we can plan and we can start really getting serious about our relationship with Krishna. If we hear all these things when we're 75, then we may run out of time. Yes,
I have a question regarding the second secret of the chanting, also the longing, I only want to serve.
Yeah.
How is it, I don't feel so 100% honest with this, because I see my...
We don't want to serve.
I want to serve, now comes the but I see my lack of capacity, also mainly physical, lack of physical capacity. How can we establish an honest relationship? And yes, I want to serve, but I think maybe I'm not, I have not enough capacity to serve like maybe Sri Sri Radharani would like to have it.
Well, we may find more the answers tomorrow because we have 2 more hours tomorrow from 8 to 10. And there, I hope this will not stop our young Ukrainian audience to come. It will be more about the Vanaprastha ashram, because now we had a whole journey on death, and so, okay, the chanting is the important way to prepare, but there is another thing of this last phase, this Vanaprastha ashram. Yes, this is a whole part of Krishna's system to help us to really remember Krishna alone. Yes, and you all should know this too. This should be general education for everyone of any age, to know that after family life there is another ashram. This is not understood. Nobody's teaching this. The only other person who preaches about it is Jayaveda Swami. Yeah. He's also writing a book. And he sent me his materials and I sent him mine. We know each other's books and we gave each other feedback. But I think I beat him to it on first. Published it. But anyway, yeah, so I hope it will not put any of you off in not coming, because it is interesting and it is good to know, because there's so much ignorance. People have no clue, and people think the husband puts on saffron in the middle of the night and walks out and is never to be seen again and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But anyway, so it is more connected with the Vanaprastha ashram. But just to quickly touch upon your question, it's very natural. As the body gets older, it is not fit to run around and lift pots and do so many things. This is completely natural. So that's why the Vanaprastha ashram is there. We are meant to switch more towards internal life and strengthen that. We are meant to guide others. We are meant to share our life experience, teach, give our attention to younger devotees, and so there's so many ways how we can serve. Yes, there's so many ways how we can serve. Yeah. And another interesting point is, because as we get older, our body will more and more fall apart. So if we think, if our satisfaction in Krishna consciousness just comes from external successes, it's just the external stuff. The internals, that has to be deepened. The external achievements are even not so impressive to Krishna. He wants the love and devotion, how we do things. So, but just one nice little point which I find very, it gives us hope. It also gives hope to grihastas who are busy with little kids and all these things. Krishna accepts the service attitude, even if nothing much manifests externally due to circumstances. Let's imagine a mother has 10 kids. So we can say, well, how can she develop bhakti? She's too busy, she can't even go to the temple and serve. No chance for her to develop bhakti. But no, bhakti cannot be stopped by any external situation. Or let's say, person is old, paralyzed, lying in bed. How can she develop bhakti? She can, because Krishna accepts the service attitude. So if that person, the mother with 10 kids or the paralyzed woman in bed, if they think, oh, I wish I could do this, make this garland for Radha Madhava, I wish I could, but I can't. If she has this longing, she will get exactly the benefit of making this garland. And she may even get more benefit than the person making it, who just makes it because she's on the roster and, oh, it's my day, okay, let me quickly make it. You know? That person who's longing to make the garland and can't do it, she will get more benefit than the person making it, who's just making it as some routine thing. You know? So, that gives hope, doesn't it? So it's all manasa puja, you know? We have to long, we have in the mind and the heart. We wish we could do this and that. And Krishna accepts that. So also, you know, for young mothers who are so busy 24/7 with babies, you know, they should never stop longing to serve. You know? Even though externally we may not be able to do the service, we should not think, oh well, that's my destiny and fate. I will never make it back to Godhead because I can't even make a garland. No, the person should long to serve, you know? Simply the longing. And Krishna will accept that. Yeah. So, and there's so many other things that we can still do. Yeah. Any other question before we move on? No? All right. Let me now continue. Let me have a look at my papers here. Well, let us maybe first start with ourselves and then how to support others. So I think a good point to begin that discussion is by sharing that usually I give some recommendation to people who are becoming a little older, who are heading towards 50, let's say. That I recommend them, you think in which community you want to leave your body one day. And you serve there. While you have the strength, you serve. You make yourself dear to the devotees, that they become indebted to you. And then the care will come. You know? Care. I was for some years a member of the GBC Strategic Planning Devotee Care Committee. You know? So the care is based on personal relationship. That's the foundation of care. You know? We can't institutionalize care. It's empty, you know, that's what happens out there, you know, there's all different institutions where you can apply for social welfare and this and that, you know, no, you know, and interesting to see, even, you know, 50, 60, 80 years ago, the government did not give the care, it was the personal relationships within a village, right, within the family unit, and the village, the community, they were caring. It's still like that in India. When you go to Vrindavan, all the old beggars, the ladies, they go from shop to shop. Every shopkeeper has his jar of coins there, and he gives the coins. You know, that's the pension system in India, the personal relationships. Because they all know all these ladies, because the family of these ladies have been all part of Vrindavan village there. They all know them, they happily give them You know, it's all based on personal relationships. So in ISKCON, it should also be like that. You know? But very naturally, I mean, yeah, sometimes in the Western countries it's not so naturally, you know, but in countries like Ukraine, there the families, they stick more together, they help each other, you know, even the devotees, they stick together, they support each other much more than, yeah, in Germany, America, all these countries, you know. So yeah, Russia, Ukraine and India, that culture is still there, more than here. But we have to develop it here too. In this book on Manifestation, there's a whole section on this. Yeah, there's so many things in there. Also medical treatments, approach to medical treatments, in materialistic culture and spiritual culture. It's all very different, so I'm bringing so many things in there. So yeah, very simple. If we really serve in a community while we still have energy, you know, then people hopefully will feel indebted to us. We will become dear to the devotees, and then they will not neglect us, hopefully, when we are facing death. You know? I mean, I'm sure here Krishna Karuna Mataji has given her whole life here serving the deities, so when the time comes, I'm sure she will be taken care of. I hope so. You know, yes, you know, yes. So, you know, we simply have to plan a little bit. We can't be naive. You know, if we live 100 kilometers away from the next temple and we hardly ever come, we stay aloof, or even if we stay only 10 kilometers away from the temple, but if we are aloof, we don't get involved much, we do just a little bit, you know, as it fits in our comfort zone, so then we cannot expect that, you know, especially if we live further away, we cannot expect that people will come there and take care of us. We cannot expect, I'm sorry, you know, even if we've been 50 years in Krishna consciousness. So we have to really be an active member of a community where we feel inspired to leave our body, you know? And good to consider this carefully while we still have the energy before we become invalid, you know? Then it's too late and we can't come and say, here I'm a senior devotee, you know, can't you care for me or something? No, especially here in the Western world where everybody works and has their own thing and, you know, and focused on their own issues and goals and so on. No, we can't expect that. So we have to look for a community where we feel inspired to serve, where there's good association. Also, as we get older, we will need even more nourishment spiritually, you know, because we can't so easily go zoom over to Radha Dash and to Simhachalam finishing a Chaturdasi and then on to India. No, we will become more and more immobile, so we will be dependent on the nourishment we have here. You know? Yeah. So we have to all soberly consider these things, you know? And work out where we want to leave our body one day, you know? And spend a good portion of time there and serve and build relationships. It doesn't mean we have to be there all year round, because Manapasta Ashram, we will discuss tomorrow, there should be coming, going. We should leave our cozy home and go here, there, then a couple of weeks, come back, 1 month, come back, 2 months, come back, and you know, but we need a base where we want to leave our body one day, you know, yeah. And so it should be a place where there's, you know, senior devotees, where there's a little bit of, some care systems where devotees understand the need for some structure for care, some committees where devotees want to care for the elderly and those who are departing. Yeah, and where there's nice festivals, where people can also wheel us in a wheelchair there, all these considerations have to be there. Where the swamis coming, senior, like-minded devotees, if we are the only elderly person there and there's all young people who are in a different film there, it can be pretty lonely. Yeah, so we need, to plan a little bit. And of course, whether Krishna sanctions our plans, that we never know. But we can't just sit and say, oh, it's all up to Krishna, I rely on Krishna, he will do the needful. No. We have to plan, we have to make some endeavor, and then simply hope that Krishna will accept them and sanction the plan, or that he may adjust the plan. So we have to be flexible to let go of our plan and accept Krishna's plan. But we have to make a plan. Yeah. That's throughout our whole spiritual life. We have to plan a little bit and choose where we want to raise our family. We have to plan. Yeah, so that's where it starts. Where do I want to leave my body one day? Like here in Germany, there's so many devotees who live miles away from the nearest temple. This is not a good plan for your old age. It's not even a good plan for our whole devotional life. Being far away from a temple is never a good plan. I usually recommend in walking distance to the temple. Then very naturally you will go once a day to the temple, and the kids, they grow up with that culture. Once a day we go and bring a flower to the Lord and some fruit and all that, But if we live miles away, we have no chance to actually make progress. We can hardly swim against this current of materialism and all this. So this has to be soberly considered, because sometimes I've seen this also, that people may think, yes, the perfection of life is to live in Vrindavan. And then you go there in your old age, just before you leave, but you have no relationships there. You have not served there. You don't know anybody there, So what will you do there? And how can you expect that anybody cares for you there? So no, every temple is non-different from Vrindavan. And more important, to live where we have relationships. Because then people will feel that this is our philosophy, to serve the devotees. And it should be an honor for devotees to support a person who leaves. Actually, I could share this since we have devotees here from Ukraine. In Kharkov, I had this whole plan of establishing an ideal model of how the different ashrams support each other. And we established the Brahmacharya ashram, and I was on the way of establishing a Varishta Vaishnava ashram, an ashram, some facility for these ladies and men who don't want to pay rent and all that, who just want to spend the rest of their life serving. We had a few ladies, and we still have them, I think. They're still there in Kharkov. Sometimes when I meet people from Kharkov, I ask if they're still around there. They're still serving. We had about 2 or 3 ladies who were in white with shaved head, just happy in a little room, dedicating the rest of their life to serving the deities. And then the temple and the community takes full responsibility to care for them. Yeah. And we, in a country like Ukraine, because the culture is still quite nicely there, that the elders are respected and cared for, and the young devotees, they serve them, they inquire for them. This culture is still there in Ukraine. So in Ukraine, it's a great place to actually establish such a model. Here, this is how the ashrams are meant to support each other. Yeah? Yes. Yes, so this was my whole absorption and meditation to create this in the Harkov. Yeah, now it's all, who knows, what will happen there. But anyway, yeah, I'm even sharing that in the book. I'm sharing all about Harkov there, that book also. Yes. Yeah, so that's how it should be, that the elders are honored and respected, and there's gratitude there. They have sacrificed their life to serving our community. So then it's a great honor for the young devotees to serve them. And we had this in Harkov. There was Sandipani Muni and what was his wife's name? Can't remember his wife's name. They both left their bodies. And the whole community served. The young teenage boys, they were going and helping in the house and cutting the grass. And then gradually, as they were leaving their body, we had a whole roster who was helping at what time there. And they were fully taken care of. There was no question to put them in a nursing home or in some hospital or something. No, the whole community stuck together and helped them, and they had a nice departure. That's how it should be, So in Ukraine, these things still go along quite naturally, Yeah, so, but here in the Western world, I'm sure, you also noticed here the mood is a little different. And but we have to create this in our communities. If we want to create a spiritual movement, this spiritual culture, we can't just take the systems of materialistic life there and put our people into some nursing homes and all that stuff. Yeah, so consider a place where we want to leave our body one day. That's a big one. If I may share for myself, I'm hoping to settle down in Marco, because I've been there for over 30 years, every year, 3-4 months per year. People know me there, I feel I get some support and people appreciate my humble preaching efforts. And in India there's more, that culture still there, Yeah. So that's my hope. But I'm only spending there 3 months per year. The rest of the year I'm all around. And as long as I can still move, I will always want to fly out of India in the hot season. It's just too hot for me there. So as long as I can still sit on the plane and come out of India, I will always do this. But then the time will come, most likely, if I don't leave all of a sudden unexpected or something, unexpected, then, I may not be able to fly long distance anymore. So then, I will settle there with AC. It's okay, we can survive. It's just like in the Russian winter, you just don't go much outside, you just stay inside, and do Zoom things and all that. That's my hope, So, and this can also be a good plan for others, to spend some time in India. The winter months you go to India, do something there, and then when it gets too hot, you come over here or something. And but one place should be your base where you want to leave your bodies one day. And if it's not in this community, well, then let's look at other communities. You know, so but we have to think about it and plan. Yes. Any question about that? Yes.
I would like to know if there is any survey, how many people die that they know it, it's like expecting, or how many people die accidentally? Is there any survey on that?
Is there a survey how many people get the final notice, how many don't? I have no clue. You ask artificial intelligence. They can give you all the answers. Just type it in and Google it. Hard to say. Hard to say. I've got no clue. No clue. But yeah, I mean, the way Kadambakana Swami left, I consider this as a pretty good example. And again, this illustrates the benefit of getting the warning. You know? So he knew for quite a few years, you know, he had cancer and then he knew, so he was not getting caught up with, you know, all kinds of last-minute treatments there, going to this healer or that healer. No, he just, you know, had his plan. Okay, I'll go to London, I'll go to Bangladesh, this, that. So, and then after Radhasami, I'll go to India, you know. And he had a good plan, you know. Yeah. And he planned who he wants to have around, you know. It was all well planned. And then also, you know, what I picked up from him was also that at a certain point he was saying, no more women around me. I thought, good idea, I'll remember that one. No more men around me. Yeah, because this attachment to the opposite sex is so deep, so subtle, you know. So better not to be surrounded in the final time, in the last 2-3 weeks or whatever. Better not to be surrounded by the other gender. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people say, all right, remembering Krishna life, but what about remembering Guru? Well, it's a very subtle thing. Because our attachment to Guru may not be 100% pure. There may be some emotional attachment there, you know, to that father figure. And if the attachment is emotional, it's binding. Yeah. So I, for myself, I wouldn't even want to have my Guru around me anymore in the final thing. That can be before, you know? We can have some video call or visit or whatever. But the final days, I wouldn't want to have my Guru there. No, sorry. Because it's so subtle, you know, very subtle. So better not. You know, I would just want to have 2-3 ladies who I can connect well with, and that's it. Yeah, so good to understand these things. Definitely family members. Actually, from a spiritual point of view, it's not an advantage to be taken care of by family members, because this family attachment is so deep. Yes, so deep. And again, I've seen it. I was accompanying one devotee. She was all fine, and the family had gone already. They had already said goodbye, but then they came back. I don't know, the whole family family dramas and attachments. Oh God, you know. So these last 2-3 weeks, no more family around. Or if they're there, let them be invisible. You know? Let them be really behind the scene, just invisible. Because that attachment is so strong. Yes, yes. Yeah. Sometimes I read these announcements, or such and such Babu, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, left this world peacefully surrounded by his family members. And I'm thinking, oh no. There is one quote. I'm not sure if I find it, but I have it here somewhere, where actually it says, let me see, where it says that a glorious death is when the family members don't even know that you're dying. That's a glorious death. Yes, it's in the Bhagavatam. I have it here somewhere in my sheets. Where is it? And Prabhupada is so humorous when he says this. He says, but the attached family man, he wants to be carried gorgeously on the funeral procession. Here, I'll read it to you. 3:30:15. Yes, 3:30:15 in the purport. Before meeting death, one is sure to become a diseased invalid, and when he is neglected by his family members, his life becomes less than a dog's, because he is put into so many miserable conditions. Vedic literature enjoins, therefore, that before the arrival of such miserable conditions, one should leave home and die without the knowledge of the family members. If a man leaves home and dies without his family's knowing, that is considered to be a glorious death. But an attached family man wants his family members to carry him in a great procession even after his death, and although he will not be able to see how the procession goes, he still desires that his body be taken gorgeously in procession. Thus he is happy without even knowing where he has to go when he leaves his body for the next life. My God, Prabhupada has a very unique way of getting the points across. So yeah, there you have it. That's a glorious death, that the family members don't even know that we're leaving. This is really, not what we think is a glorious death. Yeah, so even though of course we say the culture is that, the son is taking care of the parents and so on, and in India we are still practicing this. But yeah, well, this is more the general person, but for Vaishnava who wants to leave his body and go back to Godhead, he should actually take Manaprastha, and he should be leaving without the family knowing. Yeah. So good to hear these things, and keep them in the back of the mind, that it's not the ideal to be taken care of by family members. Of course, let's say our parents are leaving, and they are not devotees, like in my case, my parents were not fully practicing devotees, they were very favorable. So for them, in that situation, it's beneficial if the daughter or son comes who is a devotee and helps them to focus, right? Of course, that is very beneficial. But if our whole family is devotees, then we should better be taken care of by other devotees of the community and not by the family. Simply because these attachments are so strong. Very difficult to remember Krishna alone. If you are surrounded by husband, wife, children, grandchild, and the dear little granddaughter, how can you remember Krishna alone? Very difficult. And that's why this one ashrams. Also another interesting thing to understand, and again I have observed this many times, when a person is really waiting to leave, we have to give them space. While you dear most associates, whether it's family members or just good friends or guru, doesn't matter, while your dear most devotees are sitting right next to your bed, very difficult to leave. Yeah, almost impossible. And I've seen it many times, that even guru sits there for 10 hours at the bedside of his disciple. Then as soon as he goes, person leaves. I've seen that. All the relatives and friends sit there, and then they get tired and they just want to take bath and have something to eat, and the person grabs that opportunity and gets out. Very common thing. Very common thing. But if they sit there, how can you leave? You imagine you're lying there, you want to go, but they're sitting there. Then how can you leave? Yeah, so all these things are good to know, and also holding hands and all these things. You don't want this. Actually, let's remember this. When we look at the animals, all the animals who live in herds, like cows or elephants, they never leave in the herd. They always leave the herd. They go in the herde, they go in the forest or in the field somewhere alone, and they die. They never die in the herd. Even in the Goshala in Mayapur, I live in the Goshala, they separate the cows, they don't leave in. They're alone in a patch. They're not surrounded by the other cows. No? Yes. And we have to do the same thing. We have to withdraw. We have to withdraw from our friends, from our relatives. Dying is something we have to do alone, ultimately. Okay, we can have one or two people there who give us good association, but that person, now we get into accompanying others. When we accompany a person, we have to give them space. We cannot be close. We have to allow them to withdraw, and usually people want to withdraw because they feel this intuitively. We have to separate ourselves from this world. Yes. So we have to give them the space. Very important. One has to be very sensitive to a person's needs when we accompany people in this last phase. We have to give them the space to withdraw, and yet we have to give them that assurance that we are there to care for them. Yes. So it's a very fine balance of checking up and seeing, but giving them the space. Leaving them a little alone and working things out there, letting go, let's go. if we accompany people in this final journey, we have to be a little off the bodily platform. You know, we can't be too bewildered seeing how the body changes, how people get all completely skinny, and you know. But we have to look through these externals and see there's the same personality there, which I have known for so many years, you know, still there. Like in the example with Bhajagovinda, because he looked so skinny. We had kirtans in his room, and sometimes some Ukrainian devotees came and they hadn't seen him. They were bursting out in tears when they saw him. You know, they were completely shocked and started crying. So you imagine you're lying there, and the people come and they're bursting out in tears when they see you. You know, oh great, thank you very much. You know? It's not so encouraging, you know. But if the person is able to look through the externals and can still connect, oh, Haribol Prabhu, how are you? You know, and still reach you there. That is encouraging. But if people are so bewildered by the externals and they have to leave the room and cry, you know, then this is not very helpful, you know. Yeah, so it requires a little bit of a transcendental vision and still being able to connect with that person. And as I mentioned yesterday, I think it is very sweet service. Very sweet. Actually, we just had a nice devotee leaving in Stockholm. Tapas Prabhu. Anybody knows him? Tapas? He was for many years the temple president in Stockholm, so I knew him quite well. And one devotee wrote to me, oh, Tapas wants me to come and help him. What do you think? And I said, yes, do it. It's great service, you know, and you get some realizations, and it's very sweet. And so, yeah, so another thing is that, of course, a dying person is completely helpless. And if we accompany a person, we have to be very careful that we don't try and control the person in a subtle way. You know? This can easily happen because we all want to be the controller. You know? And it very easily sneaks in subtle ways that we want to exert power and control over a person. So again, it's a very fine balance that we don't control, but yet we try and support and guide what is beneficial for them. You know? Oh, my mother was very sensitive to this, you know. She hated it as soon as there was a tinge of control coming in from her side. Oh, I had this story with my mother because she was getting more and more weak, and she was still getting up at night alone. And I was, of course, terrified that she will fall over and break her bones and end up in the hospital. And I wanted to avoid that. And she had a hospital bed. You know, she had that already for 20 years, which you can all do up and down and this and that. My mother was 92 when she left. So in this hospital bed had this grid there, you know, wie sagt man, Bett. Yeah, so the Schutzding, no? Yes, some grid you pull up. And she hated it. You were trying to control me. And I was pleading with her, Mama, because I couldn't sleep anymore. Every 2 hours I was jumping up, looking and checking up on her, you know, because there was an anxiety that she falls over. That's usually the classic thing that happens with old people, that they fall over, they break their hip bone, they can't do surgery in that condition, and then people just lie there, you know. And she didn't want to be admitted to a hospital, so I wanted to save her from this. But she hated it. I had a whole drama and battle with her over this. And then, thank God, the neighboring lady came for a visit. She was good friends with her. And then my mother asked her, "Oh, when your husband died, did you also have this grid on the bed?" And thank God she said, "Yes, yes, we had this for his own protection. This is very important." And then finally, she agreed to it. But yeah, people are very sensitive there because sometimes, especially also in nursing homes, the staff often treats these old people in a very bad way. Really treating like kids and do like that and don't, and very much controlling. And this is not a nice feeling just because you're invalid and you can't function anymore, then somebody tries to control you and take over and exert power there on you. So, and it happens in subtle ways, because false ego so subtle and strong, and then easily we use our position to control that person. So it's a very fine balance of trying to protect them, but also leave them their free will and still include them in decision making as far as they are capable. It's a very fine line. Of course, it's very helpful for a person when the person giving care is not just emotional, sentimental, or how do you feel, and lamenting. This is really not what you want to hear. Actually, my experience also with my own parents, they were not devotees really, but I gave them information. I told them, so now your body, you will watch, you will witness how your body falls apart. But then at death, the soul will leave the body. You will see your empty shell lying there. You will experience it. And with my father, he was very favorable to Krishna consciousness for the last 20 years. He went every year to India. And just before he left, the day before, no, it was the same day, maybe, or the evening before he left the next morning, I asked him, "Oh, can I put some tilak on?" He had never worn tilak in his life. So I explained to him, there's the two camps, the two teams, the Yamadutas, the Vishnudutas. So, that's why we wear the neck beads, that's why we put tilak on. We want to make sure the right team is coming to pick you up. So can I put tilak on? I said, yes, you can put tilak on. So I only put it on the forehead, not on the whole body. And then afterwards he said, so, I have tilak on now? I said, yes, good. He had never worn tilak in his life, but then he said, good. And he allowed me to put neck beads on. So to talk about things. And when I told him about these two teams, I said to him, but probably you don't believe this anyway, right? And he said, no, of course not. He was laughing. So, but it's good to really tell people, give information, not just being afraid, I can't preach. Now, we don't want to force Krishna consciousness on people, but even non-devotees, we can explain them, because in this situation, they're quite helpless, and they're grateful usually if they're little pious and you have a good relationship with them. They're very grateful to hear something. It can only help. So, both my parents were so happy that I came, so grateful, and they gratefully accepted whatever I could offer them, So information is good to give, just what's happening, the soul leaves, and then you see your dead shell lying there. With my father, He left on this ecology morning in September, which is also Ramanuja's appearance, when we fast for Ramanuja's appearance, on that day he left. And he had an excellent departure. He was completely clear in his head. And actually my parents were divorced and they both got married again. So his second wife was also there. And she wanted to be all goo dada there. Oh, darling, and she wanted to hug him. He was lying there in bed. It was just an hour before he left or something, or not even. But he didn't want it. And he just said, sit down. He just ordered her, sit down. And then he turned to the side and I helped him to get comfortable as physiotherapist. I know how to put people. And then he just, it was just really like he was showing us how to leave. Sit down. And he turned to the side and he went into this shallow, faster breathing. And then he left through the mouth. You could see it was like he was choking and vomiting something out. That's what it looked like. And boom, it was gone. Yeah. It was really amazing. Telling her, sit down. And then, 10, 15 minutes later he left. Yeah. And I could actually feel his presence. I could feel how he hugged me. Thank me, I could feel it. Yeah. And I was talking to him. Wow, you made it. Fantastic. So, move on. Yeah, because people are hanging around. They're hanging around. Could you talk to them? So, move on. No need to hang around here. Your body is old and useless. You made it. And good luck. Move on. Also, there was one stage before he ordered his second wife to sit down, where he reached out to me. I was standing there with my feet back in the hand, chanting, and he was reaching out to me, saying, oh my dear, ... I'm not going to tell you what he said, my nickname as a kid, oh my dear such and such. But I did not take his hand. I wanted to give him the space. Yes, I didn't take it. And then I just dropped back into the bed. And then shortly after he left. So sometimes when I tell this, people say, oh, how cool, you didn't take the hand of your dying father. No, we have to give that space. We have to give the space. So not, oh yeah, my dear father, holding his hand. Let him go. Not distracting them from the whole internal work of withdrawing and getting out. It's actually a mysterious, fascinating transformation, that's taking place there. In regards to my father, let me share the story too. I had one Mataji with me from Latvia. She came to just help me run the show there, because it's pretty intense when you take care of somebody. And his second wife, she wasn't so keen on helping him physically, going to the toilet chairs. She kind of withdrew a bit. So I had a Mataji there who was cooking for me and just to keep me in my rhythm because, it's quite intense. So after my father left, she said, I didn't know this at the time, it was 2008 when my father left. She said, we should put a picture up next to our altar and offer him some prasadam for the first 12, 14 days. I was okay, we can do that. We put a picture there, we gave him some prasadam. And then one morning, my father appeared to me, and it was real. It was so real, it was not a dream. You know, I was just kind of dozing a bit, I was kind of semi-awake, and my father appeared, and he kind of, not to frighten me, he carefully tried to wake me up and said, you know what, I'm so hungry. Okay, and then I told this to this Mataji, and she said, guess what? I forgot to put some prasad in this picture. So what actually happens, that the soul, as a rule, I mean with my mother I couldn't feel it, but with my father I could sense that he was still hanging around there in his house. And again, it's pretty natural, you're curious. What's happening there now in my place? You know, what are they doing with my body and this and that, you know, and what's happening? So the soul, you hear this quite a lot. I mean, I'm not so knowledgeable what exactly happens there, this and that, but the soul hangs around for some time. And that's why we are meant to put prasadam at the picture, because, you know, being without a subtle body is almost like a ghostly experience. You know? A ghost, it's actually quite a torturous situation, because the desires are on the platform of the mind, subtle body. You know? You're hungry, you're thirsty, you have sexual desires, whatever, but you don't have the body to fulfill them. Very uncomfortable situation. So that's why ghosts are entering other bodies who are weak-minded, and they take over and use their body to fulfill their desires. So, and if we put a picture there, you know, then the person in their subtle body enters within their minds that picture and enjoy that prasadam through that, all on the mental platform, you know? Yeah. So that's why we meant to put some prasadam at the picture there. And she had forgotten that. And that's why he came and said, oh, I'm so hungry. So we immediately put some prasadam. So I did a set some 12 to 40 days or something. The soul hangs around. Yeah, so all pretty fascinating, you know. Yes. Yes. So another thing that we can meditate and prepare as we get a little older, that, you know, ideally is to have a small group of trusted and spiritually strong devotees around us. Yeah. You know, it's kind of a gradual thing that, let's say we have cancer, you know, so initially we may want to meet people, you know, still have little programs or something, you know, but then at a certain stage we withdraw. We withdraw. We don't want to be in the middle of everything, socializing, friends around, because that will all keep us in this world, you know? So that's why we read before this quote where it said, even our friends and relatives, we have to detach ourselves, we have to let go, you know? We have to withdraw, like the animals leaving the herd. So, and then we have a small group of trusted and spiritually strong people. I've had situations where I tried to accompany somebody, and there was, you know, people there who wanted to keep them in this world, you know, and this makes it all so difficult, and you know, prolongs the whole suffering, you know. When people are attached and they don't want to let you go, and they're still thinking, oh, maybe you need more vitamins, and maybe we should do some CT scan and this and that, you know, and they keep you here, you know, this is not helpful, not helpful, my God. When I experienced that, I was clear. No, not these kind of people, I don't want to have them around, you know, people who are emotionally attached. Yes. And of course, transcendental sound vibration. Very important. Even when we are sick, we should never just lie there. You know? There should be some sound vibration, some kirtan, some, you know, reading, whatever. And in regards to sound vibration, I also want to share this, that most people, or many devotees, most people in general, including my own parents, people get very sensitive towards noise when you're about to leave. You know, my mother said, no music, no sound vibration. Even her classical favorite composers, she didn't want to hear. She just wanted silence, she wanted peace, you know, yes. And with my father, I put very, very low volume kirtan on, very low volume. You could hardly hear it. But even that enters so deeply into one's consciousness. I experienced it myself because the last night I was sleeping on the floor in the same room where my father was. And we had the whole night through this kirtan going, very, very quietly. And this enters so deeply into the consciousness. I heard this same melody for a whole week afterwards still. Yeah. It really deeply enters. So no need to have it all loud and blaring and passionate and screaming the Maha Mantra in people's ears. No need. You know? We always have these misconceptions that we have to scream in their ear, Hare Krishna. No. People have very sharp hearing. Yes, they can hear everything. Even when they're in coma, when they're unconscious, they hear everything without screaming it at them. Yes, there's all kinds of, you know, stories where people have been in coma for so many weeks and they heard everything the doctors were discussing at their bedside and they were telling them afterwards. Yes. So this is a well-known fact that we should never have some big discussions there. You know, oh, this patient, you know, he will not make it, and let's, you know, switch off everything or something. They can hear everything without screaming it into their ear. Yeah. So, and that's what's happening also when people leave. They can hear everything. Even my mother, just 2 hours before she left her body, she was lying there with closed eyes. And there was still one lady who wanted to come and visit her and pray for her. Actually, my mother asked me to accompany her in the Christian belief. And I did this. I went on YouTube, I found all these nice psalms. Der Herr ist mein Hirte, mir wird nichts mangeln, and so weiter. You can find it all nicely prayed in a deep, warm voice on YouTube, you know? And I played all these things to her every now and again, you know? Yeah, I mean, it was almost like rediscovering Christianity for me, because I realized it's all there. They say the same thing that we say. What Rupa Goswami says, it's all there. You know, in these nice prayers. Yeah, calling out for the Lord, longing for the Lord. It's all there, crying out. You know, yeah. But it's just people don't practice things anymore, but it's all there. So, you know, no need to be fanatic, oh, it all has to be the Maha Mantra and Krishna. No, if our parents are Christians, so we just speak their language, and we accompany them in that. So when I said to my mother, so tonight, 7 o'clock, still Ulla wants to come and she wants to pray with you. And her eyebrow was going up. Very much. Yeah, so she heard everything. Can we extinguish the incense and effects my mother? Yeah, so, she heard everything. She heard everything. That was just 3-4 hours before she left. And then Ulla came and she read this, her favorite psalm, Der Herr ist mein Hirte, and that's when she left. Wow. Longing for God. I mean, even if it's in Christianity, it doesn't matter. She heard her favorite prayer and she left that. Can't go any better than that. So we have to be a little flexible. We have to see what people want. Rather than forcing our Krishna consciousness and Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No need. Although I did cheat a little bit, I put a Tulsi on her. But I didn't ask her to put on tilak because I knew she doesn't want it. And I respected that, and she was just a little worried I would take too much control there. Even though she liked what I was doing, she came 2 times with me to India. She was at Mayapur, Gopani. I put her in a sari. She was bathing the festival deities and there in Gopani and Mayapur. So she had her doses of Krishna consciousness. But I respected that she wanted to be accompanied in the Christian way. And I kept that. So no need for screaming, and if people don't want any loud noise, or kirtan, we can make it very soft and very melodious. I mean, already now I cannot tolerate these passionate kirtans. What to speak of when I leave my body, I definitely don't want to hear this passionate kirtan. Something very low and mellow and soft and, yes. Yeah, it doesn't have to be all loud. What else did we have? Yeah, looking at the BBT paintings, we mentioned that already. Oh yeah, one Mataji I accompanied, she came up with a nice idea. She had these Krishna conscious coloring books. And while she was still a little capable of doing something about serving, how we can serve even in that condition. She was coloring the coloring books, and she had one nice one about Radha Madhava and the gopis. And there was, every page was one gopi, and there was a little bit of text, what that gopi is doing, what's her qualities, what's her service to the Lord, and what she's wearing, And we were reading that, and she was coloring these coloring books. And it was a nice absorption for her. And these coloring books, they were so beautiful. She had a whole pile because she had final stage of cancer, so it took a while until she left. So the last, 4 weeks or something, she was keeping herself busy with coloring books. And she said, these coloring books, my grandkids they will have them. And she had some artistic nature. She had a whole big thing of pencils, and she was doing them all very nicely, with all the shades and shadows, and very artistic and beautiful. Nice absorption, very simple. I had not thought about that, and I also mentioned that in the book. Yes, and another thing in regards to withdrawing, the mobile phone. I accompanied one person, she just couldn't switch off the mobile phone. And that binds us so much to this world. Yes, because as we said, we have to withdraw, we have to let go, But she was up to the moment of death. She had her mobile phone in the bed, and then in the middle of the night, when she had some clear moments, she was there on the mobile phone, WhatsApp. Krishna. Yes. And sometimes she was asking, I think I'm ready to go. I said, well, as long as you can't switch off this mobile phone, you're not ready. You have to let go. Yes, so that was a big eye-opener to me. How these mobile phones, already in our healthy state, so distracting. And at the moment of death, my God, binding. My parents didn't have a mobile phone. They were withdrawing, they were the old school. They were withdrawing, they didn't want to see anybody else, and woof, off we go. Yes. But they're always texting, and then other people too, they were always bothering her, and also sometimes a little impudent. There was one Mataji, she was always pestering her, what do you see? Tell me, do you see Krishna? And what do you think you're going to do in this spiritual world? And my God, let people withdraw, and not just, yes, terrible. And then even when she left, others told me, I wasn't there then, but when she left, this Mataji again rang and said, yes, I am with you, and Krishna also. Come on, let's give people a break. What is this? Trying to be there, I'm with you, don't worry. And, God, it's really intruding into a person's privacy. Yes, no, we can't do these things. It's so disturbing to people. Yes. So we have to be a little sensitive and let people go and withdraw. Yes. And not just, not leaving them alone and getting some satisfaction there, or I was the one who spoke last to them before they left, or what. God, all these things can creep in, all in the name of caring, not leaving people alone. We have to have some respect for people's privacy. That they have to leave and do their internal work, and we have to give them the space for it. Also, leaving one's body, it is a very private and intimate process. It is not a public performance. I also experienced that people just want to see this dying person. Yes. So if they want to see and say goodbye, they should please come a little earlier, and perform some service. But not in this last week, Yeah, and once, I was sharing the flat, I was living in the flat, accompanying somebody in Mayapur, and I had a Bengali massage lady coming to me, and she knew this Mataji also. But then just after the massage, I was just getting dressed. She just snuck off and went into her room. I want to see her, what she looks like. Hey, what is this, It's not it's like in the traffic when there's a bad accident and all these people, all these gaffer people there, they're just standing there gawking, looking, all the half-dead bodies there. So there is some perverted fascination and attraction there, seeing half-dead bodies, But no, we have to be a little respectful, and not just, I want to see this person. Then in the last minute, sometimes people ring the bell or cannot say goodbye to this person. But actually they're just curious. They want to go at the dying person and see what they look like and what is it like. And, you know, but no, sorry, it's not a public show here. You know, and everybody can just come and look. You know, I mean, how would you feel? You know, if people just want to come and watch and look and, you know, no. If people want to say goodbye and do some service, can be before. But this last phase, we have to respect people's intimacy and privacy, you know, and not intrude there. And we may not be that chosen person who that person wants to have around. Okay, good. We have to respect that, you know. Yeah, there's so many things to learn, you know. Yeah. Because often in the name of service and assisting, people actually do a disservice, you know, and just create some disturbance, you know. Yes. Another very interesting detail is that very often, it's well known, that very often before people leave, they all of a sudden they want to eat their favorite dish. I was with my father also, just an hour before he left, he wanted some pineapple. So he ate a whole bowl of pineapple, you know. It's almost like you need some strength for the journey, you know. You want to have one more meal to move out. Yeah, it's a very common thing, many people say that. Yes. Or another couple more important things. Minimal medication. We should take minimal medication, especially this morphine. I had never had some experience with morphine until the day came when I accompanied one person who was taking a lot of morphine. And this morphine, what it does, the doctor explained it to me. He said morphine is a drug. Morphine gives you this illusory feeling of comfort. Yeah. And you get attached to that. And you feel like this could go on forever. And I accompanied this one Mataji, you know, she also had cancer, and it was bone cancer, and bone cancer is painful. But she was just so afraid of the pain, so she just pumped herself full of morphine, always demanding more and more morphine. In my humble opinion, she became a morphine addict, actually. She took it for quite a while, for at least 2 or 3 months or something. Yes. And she was completely addicted. And then one day she was leaning back in her bed and she said, "This is so nice. It could go on forever." You know, and I feel so good. This is what she was saying. I feel so good. This could go on forever. You know, and people start enjoying that all the people are coming and giving you attention, and they're all sitting at your bedside. You're like, eager, what is this dying person saying? You know, and you just start enjoying all the attention and the whole circus there, you know. This is so good, it could go on forever. And that's exactly what morphine does. It gives you this feeling of comfort and enjoyment, and it's so good, it could go on forever. Yeah, the doctor explained it to me, and exactly that's what she was saying. So morphine is a no-no. I mean, painkillers, okay.
Do we have pain actually, bodily?
Huh?
Do we have actually bodily pain?
Oh yes, I mean with final stage of bone cancer, if you have
Yeah, cancer, but if you just die naturally. like old age?
Well, it depends on what you call naturally. I mean, my father, he also had final cancer, but liver cancer. He didn't have any pain. Liver cancer, you just become a little drowsy, but my father was clear in the head, sit down, you know. He was completely clear in his head. And I mean, with my father, it was so funny. There was some village doctor, he left his body there in a village near Reutlingen, Starnberg. So the village doctor came there, his Hausarzt, you know, and my father said, "Doctor, I don't need a doctor. He can go." And then the doctor stood there in the door. "Oh, maybe you need some medications or something." "Medicines, no need. You go." So that was my father's word. He didn't take anything. Nothing. Medicine, what for? I don't need medicine. Doctor, what for? You know, I mean, the last night he was a little restless. He was quite restless, tossing, turning. So there is some medicine called Tavor. Maybe you heard about it. It's some little sedating medicine. So something like this I did give to my mother, not before in the moment when she left, but a night before when she was too restless. I gave her half a tablet of Tavor, and then she cooled down and she could sleep a bit and so on. You know? So something like that, okay. Or if you have pain, I mean, this Mataji who took the morphine, she also took a whole big load of painkillers, you know? Yeah. But this morphine is a typical thing because people are fearful. You know, like non-devotees, when they leave, it's the routine thing. They pump them full of morphine because simply they're afraid. I mean, you were serving in old age care. It's a standard thing, morphine, just to sedate people and make them feel like they're in la-la land there, and it's all so good, could go on forever, you know. So, yeah, but for devotees, okay, if we can't tolerate the pain, let's have a little bit of painkillers. But yeah, the absorption, that should be our painkiller, you know, overcoming the level of pain by being absorbed. That's what it's all about. And morphine is really binding people. They start to enjoy the situation. And it's also good, it could go on forever. And then you have a tough time to leave. I was speaking to one other Mataji who accompanied somebody else, you know, who also took morphine because she was afraid of the pain and the whole inconvenience and, you know, the whole bewilderment there. And she also had a tough time departing. She couldn't let go, you know, and then you were just booted out, you know. Not a good way to leave. Yeah, not a good way to leave. Better to avoid this whole morphine thing. Yeah. It's a drug. That's why people take it. You know, because it makes them feel so good. So we don't want to drug ourselves there. Then we hang on. I know another example. One Mataji told how her husband left, and he had excruciating pain, but he used it to cry out to Krishna. You know, Krishna, my God, oh, you know, yes. So better that path, you know, rather than just, you know, drugging yourself with morphine, you know. Yeah. And that's also, you know, a little bit of pain is healthy because we want to get it out. That helps us to live. And there's one Mataji who was so into her morphine there. I once mentioned this to her. I said, well, you know, the pain, it can be helpful. It reminds us to get out here. Boo, she didn't want to hear that, you know. I said it very carefully, you know, and lovingly. But when she heard that, she was all irritated, you know. So, yes. So, yeah, better no morphine. And the last thing, the fasting. To fast is actually a dignified way to live. When we know, you know, body is going to fall apart. Actually, we even don't have any appetite. The body doesn't even want anything anymore. But usually people get the glucose drip here, the artificial, nourishment. Fasting is the best. And my mother did this too. She knew a friend in the village who fasted and left. Not suicide, not prematurely, but when it's obvious the body is falling apart. And she had always had that resolve. When my time comes, I will fast. And she did this consciously. She said to me, no use, my body doesn't even want anything anymore. Don't give me any food and no water. Nothing to drink. Don't give it to me. And even if I ask for it, you have to help me to pull this through. Yeah. And it took 4 days or something, and she was gone. Yeah. And once she asked, oh, I want some water. And I didn't know what to do. It was quite, it was a painful moment, because she asked for some water. And I said to her, oh, we didn't want any water. Oh, yeah, that's right, okay, no need. She just let it go. Yeah. She was so determined, my God. And then later I asked her, so is it difficult not to have water? She said, no. But she said, actually, you just want something to be offered. You want something offered to you. And then I said to her, so now I'm offering you my love and devotion. She had this big smile, and she liked that answer. So yeah, she was so determined. And what you do is you just moist the lips. You rinse out the mouth a little bit. You do a little bit of mouth care. You put some Vaseline on the lips, and to make a bit more comfortable feeling. Because naturally, if you don't drink for 2 or 3 days, it all dries up. So you just help the person a little bit to feel a bit more comfortable like that. But yeah, that's the dignified way to leave. Prabhupada left like that. Even Kadambakana Swami left like that. He made this resolve, when the moment comes where I cannot sing anymore, I will fast. And that's what he did. When he didn't have the strength to sing anymore, that was his criteria, then it's time to fast. And usually a person doesn't stay much longer than 3-4 days. If the body is weak already, you can't really survive much longer than 3-4 days. Yes. That's the most dignified way to live. Yes. Good to know these things. Because we may never get the idea, but that's also a way how you can avoid this torturous struggle and all this, hanging in there, not being able to eat, not being on some artificial nourishment there or what. No need, just fast and move out. That's how the animals do it, that's how the yogis and sages do it, and that's how a dignified human being is doing it. Just fasting. Body already doesn't want anything anymore. Yes. Doesn't want anything anyway. Yeah. Just having the courage to say, okay, that's it. And then a few more days you have to intensify your preparation and your longing and your absorption, looking at pictures, whatever. Or just, the last day, usually people have the eyes closed. They still hear everything, but they don't have the strength to speak anymore. And then usually it just takes a day and they go. Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty much through my list here.
I want to add something. sick cows and bulls in Vrindavan, and we often accompany bulls when they die.
Okay.
And recently, when we accompanied, she said, because of this fasting issue, the fasting thing, the animals, naturally they start to fast when they realize it's going to the end.
Yeah.
And the doctor said that even with human beings, if they fast from water and from food, they will not feel pain anymore. The pain consciousness is going through fasting.
Okay.
He said this is proof. This is true. Even the animals they do, and they don't have this pain. They don't have pain. I mean, of course, if they have an accident and they're blooding, and maybe they have, I don't know. But if the normal death process is coming, no pain if you start to fast.
That's interesting. Yeah, well, I could imagine that because when you fast, the body really concentrates really on the minimal activities, you know? Everything gradually shuts down. And the whole, pain sensation, the whole, the nerval things of registering the pain and feeling the pain, that's all luxury, that's all unnecessary anymore. And, like my mother, she actually had COVID. And when I came to her, her lungs were full of mucus. She could hardly even breathe. And through the fasting, interestingly, she recovered from COVID. All the mucus was dried up because the body is so desperate to get a drop of water from wherever. That the whole mucus was dried up. It turned into some glue, some rubbery glue, which she could hardly even get out. But at least she could breathe it again, because even that the body used as a reserve, and she was COVID negative. But then, within 3 days. But then, she was so weak and she really wanted to go. She always said the flu and COVID are the best friends of the young people. They let them go. They help them to go. That was my mother's view. But I can really very well imagine that. That it's just, the body just shuts down and concentrates on the real necessities, and even that becomes more and more minimalized, and for pain, there's no room anymore, not necessary, unnecessary function here, to feel pain and all that. Yeah, I could imagine. I could really imagine. Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Good to know. Anything else? Yes.
Very good. I have one or two questions. One question is, you said we shall leave the mobile phone aside. And I was thinking already, we have a lot of contacts now, so through mobile phone, email. If one day everybody of us will give up the body, who will disconnect all of this? And because I cannot expect from someone that he or she knows all my emails and WhatsApp contacts, and is this maybe also on a subtle level binding when we are still present in all these email contacts or these platforms or so? This was so.
Well, it's binding if you have this consciousness, if you are with your consciousness still there, then it is binding, So best is, from your small circle of trusted caregivers, you tell them, so please notify them all on all these WhatsApp groups and this and that I'm not available anymore. And then, even if you don't reach everybody, just switch off the damn thing, and you're just not available anymore. And then sooner or later, people will hear that you left. Oh my God. You don't have to inform everybody. So the closer people will know, okay, she's leaving now. the other people we only contact once a year or something, they will find out later, well, too bad, it's also good enough. So it's alright, yeah. Life will go on, even if they find out later or whatever, you know. Yes. But other people have to help with this. And yeah, I mean, I had this experience, I was helping, and she said, yeah, okay, switch off. And then, you know, the other way around, no, I want my friends, and give me the phone. And then what can you do? All right, here you have it. You know, you can't control people, you know. So if they want it again, and they want to be all active, and they want to have the room full of people, I want my friends around me. Okay, well, what can you do? You know? So you can only try, and in the beginning, to discuss these things a little bit and try to guide and inspire in the right direction. But then if people, they panic and they hang on to all their relationships and they want all the people around them, you know, so then what can you do? You know, you have to let them go through their journey and accompany them, even if you think, oh God, you know, why are we doing it like this now again, you know? So it's a whole, it's not easy, because especially then other friends, they also want to have a say how things should be, and then often there's a whole tension amongst the caregivers, and all arguments, and you know, like I had one situation where I was staying with a person in the flat 24/7, you know, so I was obviously the main caregiver, but there was other people coming, reading, and so on. So I now simply wanted to share something with the other caregivers, you know, and then I was saying, let us all pray that she will leave soon, in a focused and nice way. And I wrote this, and this created a whole outcry. Devaki Mataji wants her to leave soon. But then, thank God that Mataji, she was on the ball enough. She got them all the caregivers in the room, and she said, I don't want to leave soon, I want to leave as soon as possible. And then they, can you repeat this? Really? So sometimes you're struggling more with the other caregivers and friends who want to involve and have their say and know like this, you know. That's why when I leave and I get the chance, I want to make it very clear. I want to have only these 2-3 people around me, and I don't want anybody else there anymore, you know. Because this makes the whole caregiving so much more complicated and exhausting, and all this back and forth, because it's natural. Everybody struggles with their own journey of letting the person go, you know? But you don't want to have everybody's internal work and struggle affecting that person who leaves, you know? But that's what's happening. If you don't make clear plans, and you don't have some clear understanding about the whole thing, then it makes everything so complicated, you know. And then often the caregivers, there's all these attacks and fights, like people were accusing me there and attacking me, she wants her to leave, and my God, you know, what is this, you know? You know, it's just so unnecessary struggle and waste of energy, and it drains you, and you know. So good to be clear. I mean, I learned so much in that story, you know, that I want to limit my circle. And my mother, she was saying to me, oh, thank God I have COVID. Nobody is coming. That's what she said. It keeps everybody away, you know? And I didn't even get it. And she was coughing full on to me. There was no question of social distancing or anything. I never even Yes, so she was really glad. Oh, so peaceful in the house, nobody's coming. So it's the way she wanted it, you know. All right, anything else? Yes.
I have a question about, so I was like all this all this lecture, I was thinking about my grandparents for sure, like, and my question is like, what are the signs of like when the person is already ready to depart, and so because sometimes my granny said like, well, because like I'm here, she's in Ukraine, hopefully you will meet one more time, that I will not pass away till you are there, but like, so how to know when to be there to help them?
Well, it's a very individual thing, but I can just share with my mother. Just before she left, I was actually in Australia. I did a whole tour around Australia and New Zealand, so I was far away. But somehow I had this feeling, and I had an intense desire to catch the moment when I want to be there or have to be there. But I also didn't want to be there for 3 months and just care for them. I wanted to be there for the last week or 10 days. So what I did from Australia, I rang her at least 3 times a week over internet. You know? And I had a nice little Christian book from Anselm Grün. You know Anselm Grün? Yeah, she was a big fan of Anselm Grün. And I had a nice book, Segne deinen Tag von morgen bis abend. There was nice little meditative things about blessing the day from morning to evening, you know, how to begin the day and how to end the day. And I rang her 2-3 times a week, and we were always reading something from that little book. And she really liked that. And I could sense over the phone, it was funny, I was in Australia, and I was the first one to notice that, you know, she was going down. Yeah. And I could feel it on the voice. Her voice was very weak, no strength in the voice. You know, very feeble and weak voice, and she was coughing. And I thought, this doesn't sound good. And I was flying from Brisbane. I had to fly anyway. My tour around Australia was finished. I had to fly from Brisbane to Mumbai, and I wanted to preach in India. So the day before I flew out to Mumbai, I had the feeling something is not right. And I already looked at flights from Mumbai to Germany. You know? And then as soon as I landed in Mumbai, I checked my email, and I got a message from one of her caregivers that she is COVID positive. But I noticed before her. Yeah. So if we are connected, and if you keep connection over the phone, and if you have a strong desire to be there, then Krishna arranges it. You know? Yes. Yeah. And you have to act quickly then. I immediately, as soon as I arrived in Mumbai, I canceled all my preaching arrangements. I took the next flight to Germany, you know, and then we had 10 days. Yeah. And with my father was even shorter. At that time, 2008, I was in Ukraine, and I just wanted to go to the Bhakti Sangam festival. And then my father sent me an email saying I have last stage of cancer. And I immediately rang him, and I tried to work out when to come. And he was saying, no, you go to your festival, I know this is so important for you. But then at some stage he started crying. And then I knew, I better give the festival a miss, and I jumped on the plane. Next day I flew to Germany. I had 1 week. He still picked me up at the airport. He could still drive, but next day he couldn't drive anymore. You know, yeah. And then from the day I arrived, 1 week later he was gone. So if I had gone to the festival, I would have missed it. Or if I had come 3 days later, would have been already more difficult to connect. you know, because then he was already more sleepy and gone. And probably they would have put him in the hospital because his second wife couldn't drive. They were living in the village there, you know. They wouldn't have had a chance to get everything coordinated if I hadn't come and driven the car and everything, you know. So yeah, it's all a question of desire, but then we also have to be able to quickly act, you know. And let me finish this session by really expressing that it's really worthwhile making this effort, especially with the parents, to really give them the support and be there for them. Because, you know, we do owe our parents a lot. They have taken care of us. They have tried their best. Maybe, you know, they were not devotees, so they didn't bring up us up in Krishna consciousness. But well, that's our karma that we took birth in that family, so we can't blame them, you know. But it really makes a relationship, and it makes any relationship, whether it's with parents or devotees, it makes a relationship perfect with all its imperfections. If we make that point to be there for them and support them, yeah. With all of their imperfections, the relationship becomes perfect. Because it's such an important thing. What's the use of all our preaching if at that time we're too busy, you know, with other things, and we cannot be there for each other at that moment and really give them quality support, you know? Yeah. I find this so important. Otherwise, you know, our relationships become or remain so external, superficial, we're just selfish. No, I want to go to India now to the festival, this, that, I have no time, my job, this, that, whatever. You know, it's just so selfish. What's the use of a relationship if we can't be there for each other? Maybe we cannot be there for everyone, but at least for some people. I mean, last year, I flew to Mayapur in July, which is not my time for Mayapur usually, because it's so hot. My God. But I simply flew there. I packed all my preaching. I flew there. I spent 3 weeks with Radharani who left, because I knew her from early, you know, times in Krishna consciousness. She was like my daughter. I got her married and this and that. And I thought, what's the use of my relationship with her if I cannot be there for her? You know? It's so selfish. I want to be preaching all that. You know? No, this is preaching. You know? Yeah, so I highly recommend it, especially also for the parents. And it also soothes the pain of separation and loss. You know? If we actually have served that person and we did our best and so on, you know, it really calms and soothes the heart, you know. But if we are not there for each other and we're not doing our very best to give that person the utmost support we can give, that they have a glorious departure, you know, we will feel sorry. We will lament, or I could have done more for that person, but I didn't, you know? Isn't it? Yes. So yeah, I highly recommend it, and we get so much benefit, we get so many realizations, and we learn so much, you know, if we do this service of accompanying people, you know? I mean, with my parents, especially my mother, I had a whole amazing funeral preaching program with her. Yeah. I describe it all in the book. I gave the main speech there at the funeral. You know? Thank God the regular priest was on holiday. So there was somebody filling in. She didn't even know my mother. And I met with her, I talked to her, and she could see, yeah, I can give the main speech there. So she just gave the little 10-minute introductory thing, and she left the whole thing to me. I arranged the whole thing, you know, and we had massive prasadam distribution. My mother was a good artist. She had a lot of amazing artwork. So I discussed with her that when she has left, I would do a 2-day open day in her house and just receive everybody and let them all pick out some pictures, some artwork. Actually, Devaki came with a few devotees and she did the cooking. Yes. So we had for 2 days, the house was open, people were coming all day, coming, going. You know, my mother was young, she had a lot of intellectual and educated friends. So they all came, the hall was full of people, all professors and PhDs and all this. So I gave the whole speech there, and here, and you know. Yeah, so, and people were impressed, and we had more Madhujis coming, and they were helping with the decoration. We were making all garlands, and I was doing the vases. We did it all ourselves. People were blown away. They had never seen such a funeral celebration there. She was cremated, and then we put the urn there in the ground. But we did it all very nicely, and it was the talk of the whole village, this funeral. I even went around door to door and collected flowers from people's gardens. It was in the autumn, you know, the flowers were gone sooner or later anyway. And I gave them all an invitation, please come. And yeah, it was pretty ecstatic, you know. Again, deep absorption, you know. We did a whole big program there. And we had books, not my books, but Bhagavad Gita cookbooks. Yeah, people were walking out. I didn't ask them for money, but you know, people were eager to get the books. Yeah, they loved the prasadam. And this priest, this lady priest, you know, she loved it. And she said, "Can I come back tomorrow with my husband?" So she came the second time. And her husband was also some theologue, there's some theology fellow, you know, and he was into Zen Buddhism and all kinds of things. And they walked out with Bhagavad Gita and everything, you know, and we were talking for 2 hours, and they loved the prasadam, got some boxes with more sweets and salty things there to take home. Yeah, so it was really, really nice. And I discussed a lot of aspects with my mother before. I even asked her what dress she wants to wear for the cremation and everything, you know. Yes. Yeah, why not talk about these things? Yeah, it makes it nice, you know. Yeah. I even washed her dead body and dressed her myself. I did it all myself with my father also. We washed the body and everything, you know. Yeah, then the cremation guy, they couldn't immediately pick up the dead body. So he said to me, just invite the village for a last darshan. And I did that. We ran around and people came. You know, I put her up in the bed there sitting with a candle and nice flowers and so on. And all the ladies, they came and talked to her and cried and came with cards and flowers. And then one lady was saying, "This is how it used to be all the time in our village. That's how we used to do it." You know? Yeah. It's so nice, you know? So we can make these things, we can arrange them in a nice way, you know? Yeah. So that everybody can take, you know, say farewell and so on. And yeah, people got some spiritual benefit there on this funeral, you know, hearing it. Yeah, well, people came up to me and said, "Actually, you know, I like you talk so much better than the one from the priest there." And that gave me some food for thought, and yeah, that was different dimension. You know, yeah, so people, of course I was a little nervous there, you know, but people took it well. Yeah. So a good opportunity to preach, you know, because When somebody leaves, that's when, funeral, that's when people become a little sober for a few minutes and think about life and death and what happens after. So if they get some little information, then it's well received usually. Yeah. It's a little late, but I still want to do a final little sharing exercise, because now we're kind of concluding the whole death part, because tomorrow it's kind of a new part, which is of course connected, but it's mainly the 2 hours are centered around Vanapasasha. So now it's kind of a little cut here. So please turn to your neighbors and just share for a few minutes, what did this whole section give you? This whole discussion, Friday evening, yesterday evening, then this morning, this afternoon. So what did this discussion give you? No need to go through all details again and give each other a lecture, but just share in a nutshell. What does it do to you? What are you walking out with here? Hopefully with something, some realization in essence. Can you please do this? Just 2 minutes. And then we'll finish.